Have you ever picked up your phone for one reason, opened up another app, and then forgot entirely why you picked up the phone in the first place? Or maybe you sat down to watch TV, but before long, you were also scrolling through Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook, and maybe even X. As a matter of fact, I always pick up my phone and make sure it's sitting next to me every time I turn on my TV. Eventually, I'm watching the TV while I'm scrolling through my phone, and ultimately, the TV begins to watch me. Watching one thing just doesn't seem to be enough these days. And that feeling has a name that's becoming more and more popular: popcorn brain. And once I heard the description, I immediately understood it. Sometimes it really does feel like the brain is exploding from too much information coming in all at once. Hi, I'm Jasmine Braithwaite, a certified hypnotherapist. On this channel, we explore why we develop certain habits and tendencies, and how hypnosis and hypnotherapy can help us create meaningful and lasting change. Let's get into it. So, popcorn brain isn't a clinical diagnosis just to relieve everyone's minds. It's a phrase that's becoming a popular way that people are using to describe how they feel when their brain is constantly on as a result of high cell phone usage. Before the mind has had time to integrate a new piece of information that it may have just learned, a whole different piece of information comes in. Or even multiple pieces of information come in simultaneously. A lot of people say, my brain just exploded or my brain just broke. And it took me a minute to figure out what they were talking about, but they were talking about popcorn brain. Popcorn brain gives a name to that feeling of the mind being stimulated at multiple points simultaneously, just like multiple kernels of popcorn and how they simultaneously pop during the popcorn making process. Our attention can move from a text message to a news alert, from a video to an email, and from an email to something else before we've fully processed any of it in our mind. This is different from internet addiction. Internet addiction is a more serious condition that can interfere with a person's ability to function in their daily lives. Popcorn brain describes much of a broader experience that can happen to people who are simply living in a world of constant digital stimulation. You don't have to have an internet addiction to notice that your mind has become used to something new happening every few seconds. We have so many opportunities throughout the day to reach for our phones, don't we? A question moment becomes connected with a Google search. A quiet moment becomes connected with checking an email. A waiting moment becomes connected with scrolling on Instagram. Over time, these connections can develop into a habit. We may reach for the phone while waiting in line, while eating, while walking, while waiting for something to load. We may even reach for it during a conversation or watching something we choose because we are actually interested in it. The more often we fill those moments with the phone, the more the mind begins associating the phone with those moments. And that can leave us with fewer opportunities to focus on one thing at a time. It can also make us more responsive to any potential moments of silence. Over time, our minds begin associating our phones with certain feelings and situations. When we're bored, we reach for our phones. When we're uncertain, we look up something online. When we're lonely, we may check social media or a text. When we're stressed, we may distract ourselves by scrolling for a few minutes. Or we hope it's just a few minutes. As those associations develop into stronger habits, we may begin reaching for the phone before we've consciously decided what we need from it. And I'm sure that's not a strange concept for a lot of you to relate to. Sometimes I'll pick up my phone for one specific reason. Maybe I want to add something to my online grocery cart, check the weather, or look up something. Then I see something else on the screen, open another app, and become involved in something completely different. A few minutes later, I realize I never did the thing that I originally picked up the phone to do. That's a good example of how quickly our conscious attention can be replaced by whatever captures our attention next. The phone can become connected with so many different feelings and situations that simply having it nearby may bring a sense of security and safety. We know we can reach something, we can reach someone, look up something, check what's happening, or find a distraction whenever we need one. Over time, seeing the phone, hearing a notification, or feeling uncertain may be enough to trigger the urge to check it. After a while, we may reach for the phone before we've even thought about why. That doesn't mean we have no control over the habit. It means that the response has become practiced and automatic. The first step towards changing it is becoming more aware of what happens just before we reach. Stress can make this habit even stronger. When we're stressed, the mind may become more watchful, restless, or eager for something that changes how we feel. The phone can provide that change almost immediately. We can learn something new, check whether someone has responded, distract ourselves with a video, or scroll until our attention shifts away from whatever was bothering us. Sounds great, doesn't it? Even if the relief only lasts for a few minutes, the mind may begin associating stress relief with watching and reaching for the phone regularly. Part of what can strengthen this habit is the anticipation that there may be something new waiting for us. That anticipation involves the brain's dopamine system, which plays an important role in learning and reinforcing behaviors in the mind. From a hypnotherapy perspective, this is one of the ways the subconscious mind learns. When a behavior repeatedly helps us feel better, even for a moment, the subconscious mind begins treating that behavior as useful. Over time, it becomes more likely to repeat it automatically. Then, the next time we feel tense, uncertain, mentally tired, or overwhelmed, we urge to check the phone, and that urge may appear even more quickly. Someone I know recently mentioned to me that they reach for their phone much more often when they're stressed. When they're relaxed and absorbed in whatever it is they're doing, they may not grab it as frequently. But when they've got a lot on their mind, they're more likely to pick it up for no reason at all. Sometimes we may think we're checking because there's something important we need to see. But the urge may actually be our mind looking for relief, reassurance, distraction, or a temporary sense of control. The phone may not solve what's creating the stress. It only has to change how we feel for a moment in order for the habit to become stronger. Over time, stress can become another cue that tells the mind, pick up the phone, find something new, do something that changes this feeling. And the more often we do that, the harder it might be to settle without grabbing the phone. Once the mind becomes accustomed to frequent stimulation, slower activities may begin to feel harder to stay with. Reading a book may feel like it takes too long to get to the point already. A conversation may feel slower if we're used to receiving information every few seconds. A walk may feel incomplete without music, a podcast, or something else playing in your earbuds. Even watching TV may feel like it needs to be combined with scrolling through the phone. That activity itself may still be interesting or valuable. Didn't say it wasn't. It simply may not be delivering new stimulation as quickly as the mind has become used to receiving it. And when that happens, we may begin mistaking the absence of stimulation for the absence of value. A quiet walk may feel as though nothing is happening. Sitting alone with our thoughts may feel unproductive. Waiting for something may feel like time that needs to be filled. But those slower moments still have lots of value. They give the brain time to take in and integrate what we've just learned. Without that pause, New information may be replaced too quickly by something completely different before it has had a chance to permanently stick. Those quiet moments also give us a chance to notice what's around us, follow a thought without interrupting it, or listen more closely. When the mind is constantly shifting towards something new, it becomes harder to stay focused on what's already in front of us. We may also begin moving through life at a faster pace than our minds naturally require to process, absorb, and respond to what's happening. After a while, ordinary moments can start to feel too slow, when the real issue may be that we've become accustomed to moving faster than those moments require. When we fill every pause with something new, we may not realize what those quiet moments were giving us. A short pause gives one thought time to finish before another one begins. It gives us a chance to notice how we feel, pay attention to what's happening around us, or mentally transition from one activity to the next. Sometimes the mind needs a few quiet moments to wonder. That wondering may help us remember something, make a connection, think through a problem, or recognize an idea that hadn't fully formed yet. We may also need that space to process an emotion before immediately replacing it with another source of stimulation. Sometimes when we're feeling emotions that we don't desire, we want to take our mind off something so quick, and then we don't even process that emotion. It's still there, but we've distracted ourselves and said, I've moved beyond it, when in reality, you just distracted yourself. The phone may fill what appears to be an empty moment, but that empty moment may have been giving the mind something and somewhere to settle. And when every small pause is interrupted, we may begin losing sight of what peace actually feels like. Imagine that, not even remembering what peace feels like. Peace may be quiet, it may be uneventful, it may simply mean that nothing is demanding our attention for a moment. No obligations, no one calling you to tell you you need to do something, nowhere to be, just peace, just sitting in the moment. Even the phone makes us feel like we have something to do, right? So, when the mind has become accustomed to constant stimulation, that kind of peace can start to feel uncomfortable, boring, or as though something is missing. We may begin to automatically search for more mental stimulation without realizing that the quiet moment we're trying to escape may be the very things that our mind needs. The mind may be processing, integrating, remembering, reflecting, or simply resting from the steady flow of information. We do need moments to integrate what we've learned. And those moments may seem small, but they help us create balance between taking in information and allowing the mind to do something with it. Without that balance, we can spend much of the day taking in information without giving our mind enough time to process it. One way to begin changing this habit is to become more intentional about our digital media diet. Just as the food we eat consume just the food we consume affects how our bodies feel, what we eat affects how we feel. The information we consume can affect how our minds feel. Throughout the day, we may take in news, videos, social media posts, text messages, emails, advertisements, podcasts, opinions from people we've never met, and all the things. And some of that information may be useful, interesting, or enjoyable. But when we're constantly consuming something, the mind has very little time to decide what deserves our attention, what matters to us, or what we're ready to release. A healthier digital media diet doesn't require giving up our phones or avoiding everything we enjoy. It may mean simply paying more attention to how the information we're taking in, and how quickly the information we're taking in, how quickly we're moving from one thing to another, and how we feel afterward. We might notice that some content leaves us informed or inspired. Other content may leave us tense, scattered, irritated, or mentally exhausted. We can start giving ourselves little cell phone breaks throughout the day. That might mean eating a meal without scrolling, taking a short walk without anything playing in our earbuds, or allowing a few minutes to pass before checking the phone yet again. The pause may feel strange at first because the mind has become used to receiving something new every 2 seconds. But each time we allow the pause to remain a pause, we give the mind another chance to practice being present without immediately searching for more stimulation. Over time, those small choices may begin changing our relationship with the phone. The phone can remain useful without being invited into every moment of your day. This is exactly where hypnotherapy can help. The habit of reaching for the phone often develops through repetition and association, which is good news. A quiet moment may begin to trigger the urge to check the phone. When we're bored, we may automatically start scrolling. And when reaching for the phone, and reaching for the phone gives us a moment of stress relief, the mind may learn to repeat that response the very next time we feel overwhelmed. Over time, these responses can become automatic. The hypnotherapy gives us an opportunity to work with those automatic responses more directly. Hypnosis is a state of focused attention. It's similar to what happens when you become deeply absorbed in a movie or a book or even your own thoughts. Or maybe, in this case, deeply absorbed in scrolling on your phone, right? You're still aware of what's happening around you and you remain in control, but your attention becomes a little less scattered. There's a little less noise. Your hypnotherapist during that session brings you to a state of focused attention and awareness, a chance to work with the habits and associations that usually happen automatically through things like guided imagery, as they call it, suggestion, and mental rehearsal. Someone can practice responding differently before that stimulation or that situation happens in everyday life. For example, someone might begin associating a quiet moment with taking a breath instead of picking up their phone during hypnosis. They might mentally rehearse eating a meal without scrolling, or taking a walk without reaching for their earbuds, or watching TV without automatically grabbing the phone. I know someone once who came to me for hypnosis and wanted help with their frequency in using their phone. And what I normally do is I ask the person, how frequently would you like to use the phone? And that person actually wanted to use the phone in the morning. They ended up deciding that they'd use the phone in the morning during their commute and not as soon as they are waking up in bed. They would wait till they actually got ready for wherever they were going, ready, finished starting the day, finished eating breakfast, had 30 minutes on their commute in for the day for work, and that's when they would check all the things, check the social media, and that was a whole half an hour. And that made sense. Then the day began. Then they decided that they wanted to check it on their lunch break, and that was healthy for them. So that's what we worked into the rehearsal during the hypnosis. And then they wanted to check it in the evening to make sure they didn't miss anything. So then they checked it after they finished all their work, finished all their house chores. So it turned out to be 3 times a day. And it turns out that their house chores finished around 8 p.m. every night. So they had 2 hours every night to scroll and do whatever they wanted to do. And what it did was it took the stress off because all day they were worried, oh God, I'm doing this too much. But having that structure helped them to say, I've got a half an hour in the morning, I've got whatever time I want to take on my lunch break, and I've got a whole 2 hours at night. That's enough hours. And that shift in perspective helped them. And then during the hypnosis, we reinforced rehearsed those habits that the person wanted to have. And within a very short period of time, that person felt completely balanced in how they were using their social media. Not just social media, but the cell phone in general. They felt, of course, if the phone rang, they answered it. That's different. But all the things, that they're always picking up the phone for, the mental rehearsal during hypnotherapy was 3 times a day. and they felt so much better after that. So I just wanted to give that example. During hypnosis, you might be practicing and noticing the urge to check without immediately acting on it. You know, that's a thing. That's a thing. Like, wouldn't you? I wouldn't say wouldn't everyone love that, but when you have the habit of always picking it up and you don't even know what the reason is, getting yourself to a place where you know the reason and when can be extremely helpful. So that moment of awareness creates a little more space between the urge and the response. Hypnotherapy can also help someone explore what the phone has come to represent for them. It may represent connection, reassurance, distraction, stimulation, stress relief, or a sense of security. What's exciting is that once we understand what the habit is that the need that the habit has been meeting, we can begin finding other ways to meet that need. The goal is to help the mind remember that a quiet moment can remain a quiet moment. A quiet moment can feel peaceful instead of empty. And the phone can become something we choose to use rather than something we automatically reach for. Choice awareness, I think, is a phrase they say for that. Changing this habit does not require us to get rid of our phones or become completely disconnected from the world. It begins with noticing how often we reach for the phone and automatically creating a few more moments when we can choose not to. We can let a quiet moment stay quiet. We can finish one thought before introducing another. We can watch something without simultaneously scrolling. We can take a walk without immediately filling the space with sound. We can also give ourselves time to process what we just learned instead of moving straight into the next piece of information. At first, these moments may feel slower than what we've become accustomed to, but that slower pace gives the mind time to settle, integrate, and return to the present. It also gives us an opportunity to remember what peace actually feels like. Peace doesn't have to be exciting. It may simply feel like being able to sit in one moment without needing to replace it with another. And each time we choose to remain present, instead of automatically reaching for the phone, we begin to reinforce a new habit. Over time, the mind can learn that quiet is safe, stillness has value, and every open moment doesn't need to be filled. Your phone is designed to be useful, interesting, and easy to reach for. And over time, that repeated use can shape the way your mind responds to boredom, stress, quiet, and even peace. After all, we're all creatures of habit, as they say. You may begin checking without thinking about it. You may start feeling those moments that once would have remained open. You may become so accustomed to constant stimulation that slowing down begins to feel unnatural. The good news is that the habits we've learned over time can be replaced with new habits that we rehearse today. You can begin noticing the moments when your hand reaches for the phone automatically. You can give yourself small technology breaks throughout the day. Or if you like the structure of the 3 times a day, during hypnosis sessions, you're in control of how frequently you want to use the phone, and your hypnotherapist helps you to achieve your goals. You can allow one thought to finish before introducing another. And you can begin reminding yourself that quiet doesn't mean that something is missing. Sometimes quiet is where information settles. Sometimes it is where an emotion finishes moving through us. Sometimes it is where a new idea begins. And sometimes it's simply peace. If you've found yourself constantly checking your phone, that does not mean something is wrong with you. It simply means that your mind has built a new habit of expecting stimulation more often than needed. And with awareness, intention, and practice, you can begin teaching it something new. If you found value in today's conversation, please consider subscribing to the channel. I post grounded, practical videos that support personal growth and meaningful change. I'm currently accepting new clients for one-on-one sessions. Details and my contact information are in the description. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.